Greetings, fellow beings.
It is believed by some that there is an advanced intelligent species of reptilians with an agenda which involve our human race. What that agenda may be is unknown to us. However, there are a few accounts where witnesses have observed or made contact with this mysterious race of beings. Here are a few of those stories.
Number 5.
This story was told to me by a former co-worker, female, early 30s now. It happened to her when she was a kid, 20-something years ago. She was playing hide and seek with a group of friends in A.D. Barnes Park on 40th Street in Miami, when while hiding alone under a bush in a heavily forested part of the park. She felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up, and she turned and saw a 6-foot dinosaur reaching out to her with very sharp claws. She immediately scurried out from under the bush and bolted towards her party. When she told them the story, a group of adults went looking and found nothing. After a few weeks of terrible nightmares, her family told her that a man dressed like a dinosaur was caught by the police and arrested for a slew of kidnappings. She told me that this calmed her down a bit and the nightmares stopped. She believed the story and that was that. I asked her if remembering back to what she saw, if she really believed that it was a guy in a costume. She said it looked real and not like any costume she had ever seen. She also described it as like no dinosaur she'd ever seen in a movie or science book, but like a reptile man. This woman has no interest in the topics of cryptids or UFOs. She told this story one day at work when she heard a group of chit-chatting about aliens and such. It was interesting to watch the hairs on the back of her hand stand up as she tells this story, and she actually visibly shakes during it. Obviously, no proof or anything, plus the area is now heavily populated, but I thought you might be interested in hearing this story nonetheless.
Number 4.
I loudly proclaim my interest in the subject of encounters with the unknown to pretty much everyone I become acquainted with. Sooner or later, one of them comes up to me, generally no one else is around, and tells me a story. I figure I'll share some of them here. A few years ago, around 2009 or so, at a family gathering, my brother casually mentioned to my sister and I that his wife had seen a UFO, and that it had scared the shit out of her. When my sis and I approached her, she wouldn't talk about it. So we decided on New Year's Eve to get her nice and buzzed and then try to get the story out of her again. Well, she was more than buzzed when we brought it up to her, and you could see her face change, becoming upset. We kept at it, trying to coax it out of her until she finally told us the following. My brother and her live in a very rural part of Naples, Florida, near where my mother's house is. She woke up one morning from a nightmare coincidentally about UFOs, which is why I suspect this whole thing might have been some sort of waking dream, and she went out on the porch for a cigarette. Outside, parked on the street in front of her house, was a glowing saucer-shaped ship. Coming out of it, dressed in what she described as combat armor and holding weapons, were a group of 7-foot-tall reptilian humanoids. She said they were very massively built and evil-looking. She started backing away in terror when one of them turned to her. Then in her head, she said it didn't move its mouth. She heard,
Go back inside. We're not here for you.
Then the figures crossed the street to the house across from hers. She turned and scampered back into her place and hid, not daring to look outside for a good while. Apparently, her daughter was also involved in this sighting, but this is as much of this story as my sister and I could get out of her. I know this sounds ridiculous, but if you heard her telling it and saw how she sobered up very quickly while doing so, it might creep you out as much as it did us at the time. At one point, she broke into tears and hysteria, so we asked her to stop and never approached the subject with her again. We've never asked the daughter about it, and my brother says he slept through the whole thing.
Number 3.
The first reported sighting of the horrifying creature was made by Christopher Davis, a 17-year-old local who said he encountered the creature while driving home from work at 2 a.m. on June 29, 1988. According to his account, Davis stopped on a road bordering scape or swamp in order to change a tire which had blown out. When he was finishing up, he reported having heard a thumping noise from behind him and having turned around to see the creature running towards him. Davis said the creature tried to grab at the car and then jumped on its roof as he tried to escape, clinging onto it as Davis swerved from side to side in an effort to throw it off. After he returned home, Davis' side view mirror was found to be badly damaged and scratch marks were found on the car's roof, though there was no other physical evidence of this encounter. I looked back and saw something running across the field towards me. It was about 25 yards away, and I saw red eyes glowing. I ran into the car, and as I locked it, the thing grabbed the door handle. I could see him from the neck down, the 3 big fingers, long black nails, and green rough skin. It was strong and angry. I looked in my mirror and saw a blur of green running. I could see his toes, and then he jumped on the roof of my car. I thought I heard a grunt, and then I could see his fingers through the front windshield, where they curled around on the roof. I sped up and swerved to shake the creature off. Chris's father, prompted by a story that ran in the newspaper of a strange car mauling, brought his terrified son to the Lee County Sheriff's Office on July 16, 1988. At which time he told his story to Sheriff Liston Truesdale. In the month that followed the Davis sighting, there were several further reports of a large lizard-like creature and of unusual scratches and bite marks found on cars parked close to the swamp. Most of these are said to have occurred within a 3-mile or 5-kilometer radius of the swamps of Bishopville. At the time, local law enforcement officials reacted to reports of the lizard man with a mixture of concern and skepticism, stating that a sufficient number of sightings had been made by apparently reliable people for them to believe that something tangible was being seen, but also that it was more likely to be a bear than a lizard man. 2 weeks after the Davis sighting, the sheriff's department made several plaster casts of what appeared to be a 3-toed footprint, measuring some 14 inches or 36 centimeters in length, but decided against sending them on to the FBI for further analysis after biologists advised them that they were unclassifiable. According to South Carolina Marine Resources Department spokesman Johnny Evans, the tracks neither matched nor could be mistaken for the footprints of any recorded animal. Evans also dismissed the possibility that they could have been made by some form of mutated creature. The sightings attracted tourists interested in seeing the creature and hunters interested in tracking it. A nearby radio station, WCOS, offered a $1 million reward to anybody who could capture the creature alive. However, reports of the creature began to decline at the end of the summer, with the last credible sighting of the year being reported in July. On August 5th, Kenneth Orr, an airman stationed at Shaw Air Force Base, filed a report with the police saying that he had encountered the lizard man on Highway 15 and that he had shot and wounded it. He presented several scales and a small quantity of blood as evidence. Orr recanted this account 2 days later when he was arraigned for unlawfully carrying a pistol and the misdemeanor offense of filing a false police report. According to Orr, he had invented the sighting in order to keep stories about the lizard man in circulation. On July 30th, 1990, Bertha Blythers and her 5 children witnessed a strange creature near Scape Ore Camp as they drove home from a restaurant in Bishopville. At approximately 10:30 p.m., they crossed over the interstate and were nearing the intersection of Hickory Hill Road when suddenly a large figure appeared out from nowhere and lunged toward the passenger side of the car. In a statement given to the Lee County Sheriff's Office, Bertha described the creature as being tall, wide, and having 2 arms like a human. She could only see it from the waist up, but there was no question that this was big. She was not able to make out any clear facial details in the short time it was in front of her, but she was quite sure the body was covered in brown hair.
"I never seen anything like it before,"
she told the police.
"It wasn't a deer or a bear. It was definitely not a person either."
Number 2.
I received this private message from one of our community members the other day. He had a very real and very scary encounter with what he thinks was a female reptilian. We've been talking back and forth, and I asked him a few questions. One was if he had any activity before or after this encounter. As I suspected, he was having activity before this creature showed up. He said his bed would shake, items would disappear, he'd see orbs and shadow men. This is not uncommon. A lot of people report paranormal or ghost-like activities quite frequently before or after an alien encounter. I think this is because the alien beings open portals and don't give a shit enough to close them. Okay, I'm rambling now. But anyway, I hope you enjoy his story. I know that bedroom encounters are less likely to be believed due to sleep paralysis, but I assure you that this was a real physical encounter. I do experience sleep paralysis quite often, and I can say for certain that this was not an episode. I was never a religious person, but I've always had an open mind and believe that the universe itself is my spirituality, and it's a big enough place that there are probably other things out there. I think I heard about reptilians, but never would have believed it until I seen it. I have been obsessed about information that can help me understand why this has happened and what it was doing to me. I haven't found any encounters like this, so if you know of something similar, please share. I'm not the best writer, so please bear with me. I'm a male from Australia and I'm 29. This happened in March of 2015. I woke up one night because something was hitting my bedroom door. I had a small nightlight on beside my bed. I was on my stomach and raised myself up, keeping my pelvis on the bed, looking up at the door. It was dark, being the opposite side to the light, and I thought I seen movement and was trying to adjust my eyes to the light. I felt my bed move and looked to my right. There was a reptilian laying on the bed next to me. It had green and brown scales all over it, smaller around its nasal area and larger on its forehead. 2 small holes for a nose. No lips, but there was a mouth. It had 3 or 4 long, skinny black fingers similar to claws. The eyes were so intense, I could tell it was very intelligent and a little bigger than humans, glowing yellow with red vertical slits for eyes. It's hard to put into words how intense the eyes were, and it had 3 or 4 long fingers. I straight away knew it was female, and I have no idea how I knew this. I just knew. Maybe it was the small jawline in the shape of its head. I remember thinking, is this a demon? I strangely felt calm and had control over my emotions or something, because otherwise I would have been shitting bricks. It telepathically told me that it was an alien, but it was just a voice in my head. It had control over my body after we locked eyes. It just looked at me for what felt like a long time, but was probably only a minute. It seemed like it was reading my soul. I started getting scared, and it started intentionally trying to scare me. It opened its mouth extremely wide and exposed its sharp teeth. I think it was feeding on my endorphins or something. I blacked out, not sure if it put me into a deeper trance or if it was from shock. I don't know for how long, and I came to and vaguely remember it saying it had to leave, but in my voice in my head. It had hold of my hand under the bed. I was still on the bed, but my arms were softly being caressed under the bed. I pulled my arm back. I was too scared to move after that until sunrise. I haven't seen it since. I have only ever told one other person about it, and that was only someone on the internet. I haven't told my friends or family. I don't want the stigma of seeing an alien to follow me around.
Number 1.
Los Angeles. A California man on Wednesday said he saw a judge changing shape in West Los Angeles. The man, whose name was omitted in the report, says he was attending a court proceeding for a traffic violation when he observed the judge turn into a reptile.
I was standing about 10 to 15 feet away from the judge,
He explained. He momentarily changed shape into a reptilian and then changed back into human form. The alleged event, which the man claims to have taken about 5 to 10 seconds, was reportedly not noticed by the other 15 people present in the courtroom, including officers and reporters. The Los Angeles resident also maintains that this case was rescheduled.
The next time that I was to go in front of that judge, she recused herself and would not see me again.
He added to the report submitted to MUFON.
The judge did not want to speak to me after this, but had the bailiff tell me to return at the next scheduled court date. I never saw the judge again in my return visits to the court.
The judge, he said, was dressed in a black robe, and her face was the only body part he noticed to have changed shape.
I did not see her hands at the event, as they were on the desk and were blocked by the podium where I stood. No words spoken during the shape change.
The man says he is sure about what he saw and that he had only told 2 people about this incident.
I saw what I saw, and I will never forget it,
he said. Some paranormal researchers believe in the existence of a race of snake-like underground creatures. Proponents of the reptilian theory, such as David Icke, suggest a conspiracy involving these humanoids taking over planet Earth. According to its followers, these creatures are meticulously involved in daily political decisions affecting governments across the world, as they also believe that they are capable of morphing or shape-shifting at will in order to deceive the population. In June of 2015, a Texas man told Cryptozoology News that a reptilian humanoid had startled him when the alleged creature had entered his house in Brownsville. A month earlier, a motorist in Florida took a photograph of what he called a being with heavy eyelids and weird scaly protrusions driving a vehicle in front of him. In early 2015, a woman said that her Native American grandparents had encountered an unidentified reptile-like creature while crossing the Sabine River from Louisiana to Texas in 1920. In 2002, a girl in Virginia claimed to have seen a similar creature while camping at the Yogi Bear's Jellystone Park in Page County. She stated that the animal looked like the mix of a horse and a Komodo dragon with a dark gray-brown color. Hey guys, thanks again for listening and peering into another window of the unknown with me. If you have any stories or comments, then please share with us in the comments section. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Check out my other videos if you want to hear about other strange events happening in our world. Until next time.
Be aware and keep your eyes open.